Crypto Kids, this is absolutely disastrous. Remember how a ceasefire deal was signed for 2 weeks over last night? Well, it's been violated, and it's been violated only within 2 to 3 hours of the beginning of that ceasefire deal. It included all countries involved in the conflict to stop fire, effective immediately, where the Strait of Hormuz would therefore also be opened. But 2 to 3 hours in, one of those countries decided to attack another one of those countries. So two parties decided to break the ceasefire. Iran retaliated as a result. And therefore, currently, the situation is very fragile, as the White House and the Trump administration are describing it to be. Vice President JD Vance is going to Pakistan this weekend in Islamabad to talk with the Iran delegation to see if peace can be reached upon. President Trump is still optimistic that a deal will be reached. However, military presence, American military presence, will remain in the Middle East until that real agreement is formed. He's optimistic. I'm not so sure. The 15-point peace deal, which America is proposing for Iran to say yes to, is quite different to the 10-point peace deal, which Iran is proposing to America for them to accept. President Trump has stated that he's rejected, or the press secretary stated that Trump has rejected Iran's 10-point plan and basically threw it in the garbage. So when you're in a negotiation and two parties are not coming to a middle agreement, then it's looking quite difficult. So let's see. Nobody knows, but there has been a clear violation of Pakistan Prime Minister's message, where all parties would stop being fired, but Lebanon was attacked, I'm assuming because of Hezbollah's presence. Um, and President Trump confirms that Lebanon is not included in the ceasefire agreement with Iran, but actually it was. How does this impact Bitcoin? How has this impacted Bitcoin? I'm a cryptocurrency analyst at the end of the day, so that's all I'm going to really try and speculate on in this video. We are sitting at $71,000. Bitcoin went all the way to 73 almost upon the ceasefire deal coming to the table, but Bitcoin has broken back down. So we reached 72.6, we're sitting at 71K. If we look at the bear flag, how are we holding up with the bear flag? The conservative bear flag, of course, is still in the picture. Bitcoin is still within that bear flag. If we look at the less conservative bear flag, then we're looking at Bitcoin sitting at its support line. Both ways, I think it's more bearish than bullish. At what point does Crypto Kid become bullish on Bitcoin? For me, we need to break above $77,000. 77 is the line to break, ladies and gentlemen. It is the point where Bitcoin found massive support from the March 2024 highs. That was resistance. It was resistance for the 2021 all-time high, the 2021 swing high. Bitcoin bounced from it in April of 2025 during the Trump tariffs and went to 126 when it was lost. Bitcoin fell by another $16,000. We tested it in mid-March. Now we're sitting below it. If 77 is broken, then I'm going to be bullish. Another reason, or a couple of other reasons why I think 77 is the level, it also coincides with the bear flag's line of resistance. It also coincides with the Consensio on 4-day. I love Consensio 4-day. The 30 simple moving average and the parabolic SAR are also at $77,000. If Bitcoin is able to break it, good, I'm bullish, and that would coincide with likely the conflict coming to a finality. But if it doesn't, then I'm going to remain bearish. The S&P 500 is the interesting one because it's rallying massively. It's rallying on the Trump taco big time, similar to the rally we got in March of 2025. Is it going to be faced by a big drop today going into next week? This one is a bit uncertain. All I know is that the S&P 500 is following 1996 to 2001 price action with like a 90% correlation. It's very strong. S&P in 2026 is doing what it did in 99, 2000, almost exactly to the T. Therefore, there's one of two situations that can be seen. Situation one, S&P sees a dump here, breaks off the correlation, and goes to the near 6,000 territories. Or S&P breaks the prior high, sweeps the high, and we see a bigger correction in 2027. This is what I think will one of two scenarios. If the S&P goes to new all-time highs, the important point for you, crypto guys, is that I don't think Bitcoin will reach a new all-time high. I think there will be a big divergence, and 2027 will be bearish. But if S&P goes down, then obviously Bitcoin goes into the mid 50s in the immediate short term. The crude oil prices are back to 92 upon ceasefire deal coming to a violation within just 2 to 3 hours of the deal from being agreed to. We have the PC inflation data, the Fed's preferred inflation data. It was on a downtrend. This is the first major inflation data reading from when the war conflict military operation began in the Middle East. If this sees a huge spike, that means tomorrow's CPI data is going to see a huge spike. That means it's going to be a hawkish environment amongst Fed officials, which will reflect negatively on the price of risk on assets such as Bitcoin. We're going to be live streaming the PCE data together on the Moon Show. My prediction is over 3% for sure. How much over, we're going to find out. What is the actual 10-point peace proposal that's shown by Iran? If you're wondering, it includes controlled passage of the Strait of Hormuz, acceptance of Iran's uranium enrichment program, and right to nuclear technology, the lift of sanctions, and withdrawal of U.S. combat troops from regional military bases through the Middle East, compensations for the military operation that's been conducted against them, and release of all frozen Iranian assets and properties abroad. So it's a very strong deal for themselves. Where could they potentially agree on? Like which points are similar? I think the sanctions are pretty similar. The sanction relief is pretty similar. And I mean, that's pretty much it. Some of the nuclear points are kind of similar. But apart from that, it's a different proposal. So really, I can't comment so much. We're going to have to see ourselves on what takes place in the talks Friday, what takes place on the talks over the weekend, and we'll really see an understanding, I think, going into Monday, Tuesday of next week. Bitcoin, let's shuffle it up. We'll have some more Strait of Hormuz and Trump news to end off the video, but let's shuffle it up and put some Bitcoin in between and show you the expectations that we have for the Morgan Stanley ETF. The Morgan Stanley ETF, the first ever bank to launch an ETF, a Bitcoin ETF, the cheapest ETF on the market, had one of the most successful launches for their financial product in history. It was performing easily in the top 1%, according to Eric Balkunas, saw roughly $36 million of volume in day one. Charles Schwab, if they follow Charles Schwab research on crypto allocations, and let's say allocate 6.6% moderately into their investor portfolios, that is almost $400 billion that would come in from Morgan Stanley to Bitcoin ETFs in the long term. I'm optimistic. I think it's going to be great. So congratulations. Thank you, Morgan Stanley, for listing your ETF onto your your financial services platform. President Trump latest. President Trump is issuing 50% tariffs to countries that supply military weapons to Iran. We talked about JD Vance. I just don't understand the whole point of this operation, by the way. Like, to me, it makes absolutely no sense. When the operation began, the Strait of Hormuz was open. The Strait of Hormuz was already open. But I think it all comes down to President Trump getting rid of the agreement that Obama had signed with Iran in 2018, which would have said, okay, your uranium is strictly limited. You can only do it for peaceful things. You cannot have nuclear weapons, and there will be full international auditing and inspections on your uranium activity. And there was compliance. So it was a good deal, in my opinion, but President Trump didn't agree to that. And now they've spent way over $40 billion. Hundreds of Americans have been injured in this operation. Over a dozen have tragically lost their lives. The prices of crude oil have rocketed. Inflation has rocketed. It's been I don't know. I feel it was pointless, but I don't know the full context. None of us know the full context, so we can't conclude to a full justification. I think Trump has done good things in other areas. This one, Unfortunately, I'm really not so sure about his comments on True Social earlier on this week were, I think, unacceptable. Strait of Hormuz is closed, and it's closed because the ceasefire has been violated. Interestingly, Iran is apparently wanting tolls to be paid in Bitcoin by vessels. Roughly about $2 million worth of Bitcoin needs to be paid per vessel, per ship that passes through the Strait of Hormuz. If that was to sustainably happen, it would result to 3,600 Bitcoin bought daily, 108,000 Bitcoin bought monthly, and 1.3 million Bitcoin bought yearly. It's interesting. It's an interesting concept. Like whether if they really do it or not is the question mark. But if they were to do it, they're trying to evade sanctions, and if they're paid in Bitcoin, it's the money that nobody can corrupt. Nobody can say, "Hey, you don't deserve to be a part of the financial system." And actually, if they were to take this Bitcoin, they would likely keep it, and they would likely do their transactions with Bitcoin. They wouldn't off ramp it. So it would be theoretically huge buying pressure. Before we continue, if you are looking for a place to be trading Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, make sure to check out the links in the description too. Our partners and sponsors of this content, LoveX, BTCC in weeks. With BTCC, you will now actually get up to a 10% deposit bonus. I know, sucks to be you. You should have taken advantage of it before. It's okay though. I'm just joking. You will be able to get better and bigger bonuses as a BTCC affiliate in the future. So check them out. You can trade things like crude oil, S&P 500, gold, and silver if you are a BTCC signee. Now, let's continue with the video. Is it going to really take place? I don't know. But if it's official and we start seeing, certain vessels begin to pay these commissions in Bitcoin, then Bitcoin with the supply shock would go up, regardless of what the macro environment is facing. This would be a big deal for Bitcoin. Will America allow that to happen in a deal that would potentially be reached? I don't know. We're going to have to see. We're all going to see it together. As of today, the Strait of Hormuz is basically still closed with only a couple of vessels passing through it in 24 hours. Guys, that concludes today's video. It's a sad day for all Apple investors because Jim Cramer is bullish again. But that said, yeah, we've went through everything that I wanted to go through. Stay tuned for today's live stream over on the Moonshow channel. I'll see you all there. Keep on forgetting that my camera's on the table. I'll see you all there. Take care, and as always, bye-bye.